Well, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and whoever the hell you're doing it to, let's do it with a little bit of love, a little bit of drab, olive green, communist justice. Here we have the T-150, the beginning of the second Russian heavy line, and what an exciting line it is. It's one of the best lines in the game, actually, I think, in terms of continuity and actual progression, because it's almost the same playstyle throughout, but there's a little bit of a tinge added to each tier as you move onwards and upwards. Wonderful to see you all here today. Thank you so much. We are just about to hit 3,000 subscribers. Very, very exciting. This video goes out to Martin Petty, who actually on the Facebook page, I was after suggestions, feedback, comments, and he suggested I do a review on the T-150, and I realised I actually had about 8 games worth of T-150 footage that have been sitting there for 6 or 8 months. And crazily enough, I decided to use the bastards. So here we are, Martin. Good work, mate. Thank you very, very much for that. Now, we're about to hit 3,000 subs, and as such, geez, what an exciting time to be alive. I've got a bit of live stream work coming up. I've just released the IS4 video. There's all kinds of things going to happen on the channel over the next wee while, guys. And it's really exploding, really taking off, and I want to thank you all for that. Make sure you check out the Facebook page, www.facebook.com/Bushka on Blitz. The PayPal donations have been fantastic. It makes it a lot easier to devote time to the tanks and be a little less rigorous with the work schedule when I know that I'm paying the way for the premiums, for the grinds, for the free XP, all that kind of thing. So thanks for that. And as always, follow along at Twitter at Bushka on Blitz. Yeah, that's about enough. That's about enough. What about this tank? Well, what a ripper tank it is. The T-150, it's quite the package. It's got a fantastic alpha. It's the real beginning of the side scrape era in the Russian line. The other side of it goes the pike nose, the old cone heads. They move forward. The IS-3, the IS-7, the IS-8. But over here you get the box tank, the T-150 box tank. And it's made more exciting because of the weapon on this tank. Now, it side scrapes well because it's a peek-a-boom tank. Peek-a-boom, literally the title will give you the clue. Peek out, take the boom, the shot, and then peek back and forget about going out again until you have another shot. And you can see there the reason it's so successful at this playstyle is the 320 average alpha damage on this ZIS-6 weapon. It's got solid pen numbers too, 167 and 219mm of pen, but the alpha damage is where it's at. Now, it's got typically Stalin-esque gun numbers. The hand of Stalin doesn't move with any kind of finesse. It's just a big solid fist. 0.45 dispersion and 3.4 aim time. It's like trying to roll poo uphill with a stick. But honest to God, you want to get up close, personal, and ugly with this tank, and the gun works a treat for that. It works really well in tandem with another T-150. They work great as a pairing, as you'll see in the videos to follow. And it's able to punch well above its weight with that gun. 320 alpha will work for you all the way through to tier 8. It's a good, solid number, and it's certainly nothing to back off from. The mobility is where this tank falls down. I mean, you're not impregnable with the armor, but you can angle it and groove it and side scrape, and you'll see me doing that in the videos, and the gameplay will really show the play style of the tank, but the mobility is its issue. The weaponry isn't. You want to grind up to that gun ASAP, by the way. It makes the tank. The engine and everything, it's painfully slow and glacial regardless, but the gun absolutely makes the tank, and without it, it really doesn't perform that well. The peek-a-boom playstyle requires something to boom with, and that ZIS-6 is where the boom comes in. And of course, it's a consistent playstyle. The KV-3 has the same thing, huge alpha, flat sides, and that flat side is the key. The way mechanics work, and we'll look at it in the armor profile, a good flat side will allow you to effectively increase armor and create auto bounce zones. And as you go higher up this tree, you get different tanks with different angles and different slopes. But for the KV-3, the KV-4, and the T-150, that flat-sided box configuration really takes hold. And it's a great tank to play because of the way the weapon works. You duck out, you take your shot, you knock a third of the hit points off, and then you pull back and you hide. Now, that's not always going to be the way, but if you've got good map awareness and if you've got good decision-making ability when it comes to where you're going to put this tank, you'll be all right. Don't take it on a flank. Don't take it where it's going to need to take big, long shots to be successful. And don't take it where it needs to expose that lower glacis excessively to actually get a shot off, like the top hill on Winter Malinovka or something, because like a lot of Russian guns, it doesn't have fantastic gun depression. And it doesn't really have the strongest turret. It can go hull down, but the gun works best in a side scraping setting. And likewise, when you get in trouble, you've got 400 damage on that high explosive. Pumping that into the back of tanks where they're weak, or just firing it into things that don't have a very easily pennable armor profile, will make you a tank that can punch around about at tier 8 and still contribute to the team and move forward and be successful. Now, mobility-wise, it is an absolute feature of this line that the mobility is horrific. It goes right through from the KV3 through to the KV4. It gets a little bit better as you get up to the ST1 and the IS4, but neither of them are going to set the world on fire either. The KV4 in particular is a glacial 17 degrees and 18 degrees of traverse, respectively. The T150 is 16 degrees of traverse with 20 degrees of turret traverse, so horrible stats. Basically, don't get caught in the open. Great tank for pushing urban areas, for spearheading a one-channel attack, and works really, really well in tandem with another T150 because it covers each other's deficiencies. No one is going to push up on a T150 with 320 alpha when they're going to get hit by another T150 for 320 alpha as well. So bear that in mind and try and keep the tank always near wreckage, objects, anything that you can side scrape or use as cover. Now, in terms of equipment, very straightforward. I run a rammer, vents, and a gun laying drive. Normally I would run a toolbox, but the gun laying drive, 3.4 seconds is just overwhelmingly crap. You need to get that down as far as possible, as quickly as possible, and it allows you, it's a trade-off. You're going to get tracked in this tank a fair bit, but you're also going to be able to take your shots quicker and expose yourself for that split second less if you're running a gun lane drive, and that's key and it's really important, and it's something that I bear in mind when I do run the tank. Adrenaline and a couple of packs will help you out in terms of repairing those tracks. Now, we're going to have a look right now at the armor profile and then jump straight into the gameplay. Okay, we're looking at the T150 here, and you'll note, first things first, there's a bit of green there, but this is from the perspective of the Cromwell's top tier gun, which is a good gun, good pen numbers. You'll see though, the angle of the tank I'm at, I've got it at about 35 degrees to the Cromwell, who'd be looking dead on, and those tracks are all red. Now, the tracks themselves are only about 20 millimeters. You'll see here the external module, and the actual primary underneath is only 90 millimeters. So you add those two together, you get 110, you'd think. But the thickness of the track and the fact that the module is angled and your effective armor is increased that way actually means that to get through with a shot there, you have to have 200 millimeters of penetration. And it's why this tank works well side scraping. If you can't see the front of the tank and you can only see the side of the tank and you take a shot, you're going to get eaten by the tracks or just plain bounce. And then the driver of the T150 pulls back, takes his shot, and bam, moves straight back into cover, and you've got this same heavily angled, difficult to penetrate situation. Peek-a-boom. Learn to live by it, learn to love it, and learn to use it. And running in tandem, two T150s is great fun. It's a really interesting line. The T150, the KV3, the KV4, they refine that gameplay style all the way through. And I think that's why I love this line, and I love the fact that Wargaming put it together like that. And it's a really, really enjoyable tank. Now, as promised, we're not going to muck around too much. Straight to the gameplay. Now, you can see here, platooned up with my old mate Artisto, and we're running dual T150s on Fort Despair. Straight away, we start angling. Now, the Tiger One's angling as well. Neither of us successfully, but we're doing the right thing. We're trying to side scrape in and out. And this is a good example of where you want to be with this tank. And he gets stuck, and we manage to bounce. Now, you can see the side scrape that I'm talking about. And it's the first thing I wanted to show you. Wait, be patient. Don't come back out until there's an opportunity. I wait for that KV to remove himself from the line of fire, straight into the drive wheel where the weakest point of the armour is, and we're away. great tank for side scraping. The Tiger's a little bit tougher to side scrape with. And this is what I'm talking about in terms of mobility. You can see how slow we are here. But we're very safe to move up here and actually put ourselves in a position to put flank fire in on these guys ahead. Now, the Tog's very slow. He's glacial. Remember how I talked about running two T150s at the same time? You'll see here this Cromwell's moving around to the right flank, but Artisto's quite comfortably pushing away over there, and he's got a good look at the Cromwell, and any time that Cromwell comes out and says g'day, not Cromwell, sorry, the Comet, comes out and says g'day, he's going to get hammered. We've moved straight back up to a side scraping position. Look at that fierce angle, probably about 35 degrees. A lot of track, a lot of flat sides, a lot of heat being fired there into that Tog. Seems like a bit of a waste, or is it HE? And the Tog, horrible angling on that big monster. It's got a good gun, but wow, just horrific angling and a lot of hit points to chew through. Good pen numbers on that gun, all that kind of thing, but wow, didn't he just show off a lot of that big butt? And this is where this tank is so strong. Banging up the middle of one channels where it can move from one strong side scraping position to the next, and use that really solid alpha. You can see the KV1, the predecessor, that's the tier 5 in the line, and if you took note there, it's a very similar look, very boxy, very strong feeling tank. There you go, again, nothing special there, nearly 2700 damage, but very straightforward. All we did was drive about 100 metres up a one channel, side scraping and laying the herd out as we went. Now this video is from a long time ago, and I am not quite the player I was then, thank God, but we've run across a Black Prince, and this is actually a tier 8 game. That's a lucky shot for this tank. Now, Artisto's moved up with me. We're angling the tank pretty successfully and getting a few bounces, but we're in the water. This is a terrible position to be in. I'd never do that these days, but here I am. It goes to show what kind of a player you are. There's someone in the respawn back there. I suspect it's the tank destroyer, the tier 7 TD that you can see there. We're just angling, making it really tough for them to put shots into us. Even in a higher tier game, this tank can excel. Always angle as best you can regardless. Now, there's no one spotting us now, so hopefully that incoming fire should die down. The mindset behind going here is just you can't successfully take a tier 6 up against a tier 8 on that hill and be successful. It's a terrible thing, but it's just a fact of life, and there's plenty of action going on up there. So we're pushing the flank and doing a good job at it. The whole time I crossed that water, even though it was a bad position and it wasn't terribly good gameplay, what I did do was keep that angle successfully the entire time, so that even though it was a bad spot, I made the most of a bad situation. Now Artisto has pushed through. He's going to give a hammer to the TD. You could see it was the TD at the end of the line, camping and successfully getting stuck into us. And we've now moved into a good situation to put flank fire in. But again, this tank, any kind of size on the reticle and that 0.45 dispersion, it's just an absolute wild card. It's like trying to ride a bucking bronco. It could go anywhere. That 320 Alpha, though, starting to really make a name for itself. We're chewing through these guys. Artisto's pumped the T25 at the end of the line, and they're down to 3 tanks, and it's all over now. 2 tanks, tier 7 and a tier 6 left, and we've had a really good run. And you saw the angle there, you saw the alpha, but you also see that it's not a sniper's butt. It shouldn't be sniping, and one of the reasons I'd never bring this tank over here now is because of that. You're just so bad at putting flank fire in. It's funny to watch gameplay from quite some time ago. I really wouldn't play like this now. It's great. So yeah, you get better the more you play, guys. But again, we did the right numbers, and we did do what we did. We got a steel wall, we got a sniper's badge for all that, and nearly 2,400 damage at a tier 6, which is solid numbers at tier 6. Don't get me wrong, that's good. Very good. It's not amazing, but it's still solid to be putting out that kind of DPM in this tank. Here we go. This is the old version of Rockfield, obviously. And we've moved up, and there's the bunker. You can still exploit that bunker, by the way, if you're wondering. It's actually not that hard these days, but we're angling the tank again. I think this is a wonderful testament to this tank, actually, that I'm a much better player than this now. And I'm looking at this tank, and all I'm doing successfully, and I got a good win rate in the T150, I got a very good win rate in the KV3. And it shows that if you take these Russian tanks with these big flat sides and you just do one thing well, and obviously that one thing well being if you angle them well, you can be really, really successful. And you should be doing this with this tank. It's an absolute monster when you let it do this. You give it every opportunity and it'll succeed for you. Now you can see Russian gun depression being what it is, and we didn't talk about the gun depression, but the gun depression on most of the Russian tanks is never going to be very good. What they excel at is taking big chunks of damage and dealing big chunks of alpha. And Artisto's moved up to that middle bunker, so he's perma-spotting these guys. Now it's a key on this map, if you ever do end up on this map, having someone at that middle bunker, it can come with big dangers, but it allows you to permanently spot everyone who's up and moved forward and put really effective fire into them. And Artisto's doing a great job of that there. He's ruined the party for these guys. They haven't got their own way. They'd like to go out there and use the camo exploit, which I've outlined in a few of my videos, but they're not getting to. And there we go, Churchill 1, another tank that I really didn't like, but I've been told is quite good. I disagree. Knock yourself out if you want to go grind that one. Well, hats off to you. It can hull down. Very solid hull for a Tier 6 tank. You've got a bit of spaced armour on your gun mantlet, and it'll take hull down situations and turn them into successful situations. But side scraping is the key with this tank, and angling, obviously the key. An absolute drubbing there. Very strong platoon, 2 T150s. Very, very strong indeed. Yeah, so one of the toughest things you can do, and I find this particular with Castilla, you can probably hear that noise in the background. You're just going to have to put up with this if you want. If you want to see this video today, this is what you're going to have to put up with. It's waiting. The rest of our team has gone the other flank. So we push up here. Now there's a tendency for mediums and such to sprint over the top of this hill, take a peek and pull back, get the spotters, see where everyone is and set the game up that way. And that's why I train the gun on that area there. It happens on dead rail a lot too, and you can pick up cheap shots at the start of a match by just putting the gun on the positions that mediums usually go to. Tank destroyers, if they do it, can really make a killing. But I'm telling Artisto here just to hang on, hold a tick, let's wait and see what happens, because there's nothing worse than pushing around this flank into 6 or 7 tanks. And the timing in this game is everything. And sometimes patience is exactly what you need to have a good game. And in this case, I think it was the right decision. We're just waiting to see what turns up. Now, you've got the usual blokes sitting in the top right corner there with the tank destroyer. They can be effective, but generally speaking, needs spots, and he's not getting anything at the moment. You've got 3 guys that have gone up the sniper's position, so they're all going to have a shot at whatever gets spotted up, and a tank destroyer who's holding the road down there on the far right flank. And we're just in a holding pattern here. Both sides really the calm before the storm. And there we go. Everyone's decided to move at once. And that's exactly what I was talking about, mediums moving forward to get spots. And it's exactly where I thought he'd come out as well. And he's put himself in a situation there where he's in all kinds of bother. And it's one of the reasons I was happy enough to move forward is we've got guys on that flank now, on that top area, not being challenged on the top of the hill. And look at that. Look at all the damage into that bloke there just from moving forward one little touch. So we go again, and there they are. They've all stalled out, and they're all waiting. Now, this isn't actually a bad situation. It might seem like a tough spot, but see those rocks in the middle of the field? They break up lines of fire really, really successfully, and they let you isolate targets. And that's what we've done here. We've put that rock between us and the tank in front of us, and we're just going to have a crack at the VK. And I'm not even bothering to repair there. It would just be a waste of a kit. Just letting it reset. He's in a terrible position, and yet the rest of his team, despite the fact that they're only about 50 metres away, they're not able to bring any great assistance to the fray. There's a lot to be said for being patient. Look where we've caught these guys, in absolute all sorts. Terrible spot. And they've just been hammered for it. The team that did nothing, that waited the longest, came out on top. It's funny, isn't it? It's probably is a big lesson in that. And quite often we forget about it, especially if you're going through a high volume of games. We play way too quick. And we sometimes get rewarded for it, but usually you die first. That's not good. And you're just going to see the big alpha there taking out that KV-1S. It's a really interesting thing too, the different Russian lines. The KV-1S is a very, very good tank at tier 6 as well. And it's a lot more mobile than this. I just find the T-150 to be that extra bit nuggety. And that it's got that extra little bit of side scraping ability. I really, really do prefer it, although I can't genuinely pinpoint any one thing that it's better than the other one at. Anyway, onwards and upwards. Last game. We're ready. Oh, and they've started up with that freaking concrete truck again. Here we go, though. We're on Desert Sands. We are in a tier 7 matchup. Desert Sands is an interesting one. The meta game here can really get you in trouble. These days, everyone tends to push the flank and try and overwhelm there. But if you do get a town fight, you have these very, very nice long sides of the buildings to side scrape off, and it works a treat with this tank in particular. And you can see, obviously not the kind of shot you're going to take there, but he's knocked down a little bit of the wall and given us a look at him, and we've gone straight through the front, heard his engine, he's blown a repair kit and that. Always good to take note of those things. When you see, oh, he hasn't blown the repair kit. Now, horrible anger there. Look at that angle. Absolutely horrible angle from that Tiger 1. He's come out, shown his right-hand side drive wheel, and got smacked for it. So we've had 2 shots, 2 kills. Not 2 shots, 2 kills, but 2 shots, 2 hits. And we've now smacked the back engine of that VK as well. So all in all, a very, very successful first part of the encounter. We've just found a nice spot, and we're letting the hits come as they will. And boy, are they coming. Another shot, another successful hit, and the damage is mounting up very, very nicely. Now, the Tiger 1 you can side scrape with, but if you are going to be over aggressive with your side scrape and give people angles like that, you're going to get panned. It's got very, very thin sides, and they're not hidden behind the tracks. Now, if you have sides that aren't hidden behind tracks, they have to be quite strong before you're able to side scrape at a severe angle with them, and the Tiger 1 does not have that kind of strength. Now we're pushing up. We've seen on the flank there is 2 tanks on 1 medium out there, 3 tanks rather, so they're going to be deficient in town here. There is only going to be 3 tanks in town, and we're about to lose the flank. Obviously it's very hard to hold versus 3 in a Comet, so if we don't move up quick, smart, and terrorise the rest of the town, we're going to end up fighting on 2 fronts. And that is never a good recipe for anyone. Now this Tiger, he pushed the limits and got hammered for it. That's the kind of alpha I'm talking about. Taking another one in the tracks, and we immediately start side scraping again. Now we get bumped around a little bit too hard for my liking from that. Look at him, the VK30, he's determined just to go straight through. Never heard of a side scrape. He just wants to go straight around the corner, side on. He's happy with that. Now the Panther's got a lovely penetration gun at tier 7. He could quite possibly get through, but the angles are very, very nice, and they thwart him. You can just see how you move from one strong position to the next. And every time you do that, you're giving yourself an advantage over the enemy. And they don't have to come to you, but they so often will. And then you peek out, you boom, and you pull back. Now the Panther's done the only thing he could, which is push forward. He's got to get rid of me on this flank. If he doesn't, they're dusted. But he knows he's in strife. He's in a bad position, pulls out in a very, very poor manner, and exposes himself excessively. We're now a tank up, and I'm feeling really confident here because basically there's just too many angles for them to fight on. That guy's using the howitzer. What can you say? You see anyone doing anything like that, angle your tank and move forward with confidence, they're not doing much to you. And the Panther is the lucky last. He is going to be the last bloke to take a hit. I don't know about you, but I hate the way that gun does that. It tracks to the barrel and to the edge of obstacles. It's very, very frustrating. Anyway, there's the Panther. He's gone. Tier 7 game. Tier 6 tank dominates proceedings. Because of the layout of the land, we got to side scrape from two very, very strong positions. Mastery badge, snipers, plenty of damage there. 3,296, very good for a Tier 6 match. And you can see not much spotters, but 14 shots, 13 hits, 12 penetraciones. Very, very good game, and it's a very, very good tank. I think it's an excellent, excellent way to start up the heavy line of the second Russian heavy tree. It's a fantastic side-scraping tank. It's got brilliant Pika Boom Alpha. Just don't get yourself in any situations where your mobility has to be relied on, and you'll be apples. Now, there's a lot more coming up on channel. Make sure you visit the Facebook page, www.facebook.com/Bushka on Blitz, and take part in the conversation. It's really good to have a lot more interaction with the community than on here on the channel here, because it's just a lot easier to talk on the one post there. Follow on Twitter @Bushka on Blitz on Twitter, and as always, boys and girls, stay safe on the battlefield.